Hello and welcome back to another Euro Fantasy video. Today we're going over the final team selection of the Euros tournament, and this will be the final video on Euro Fantasy. So a big thank you to everyone who has tuned in throughout the tournament. Obviously this is going to be our team for the final and our planned transfers as well. So before we get into that, we are looking at our semi-final team as always, the team that we had in the previous round in terms of points and stuff like that. And again, it was another very disappointing week. I really don't know what else I'm supposed to do. I just can't get a good score whatsoever. I feel like I'm picking the right players, and those players just aren't performing for me whatsoever. So if you are planning a team for the final, make sure you pick the exact opposite of the ones that I'm playing, because I seem to be jinxing absolutely everyone. Live rank, I managed to climb a whole 8,000 places in the semi-finals after picking up 39 points, which was the exact same score I got in the quarterfinals as well, which kind of sucks. But hey, 39 points again. And that's just the way things goes. Again, you can see by the points, the defence essentially picked up absolutely nothing. Our highest point scorer was 3, and even when you're picking the players that are known to get good ball recoveries, they still didn't barely pick up any ball recoveries. For example, like Cucurella, Koundé, De Vrij, Van Dijk, and even Gehi were all on like 0 ball recoveries or 1 ball recovery by the time half time came round. And it just wasn't very great whatsoever. And obviously no clean sheets for any of those guys either. So no points in the defence. In terms of the midfield, Rodri was my captain for the first day. I changed that whenever the Spain game was. Again, another big disappointment. My thinking was Rodri's going to pick up at least a few ball recoveries, so maybe I'll get 4 or 5 points from him, and that didn't happen. He barely picked up anything, and we get 2 points from him. Then I went for Bellingham in the second match. Again, my reasoning was I've got someone in my mini league who has just beaten me right now, and they never had Bellingham in their team, so it's just trying to obviously try and beat them now, because my overall rank is basically down the drain. So doing whatever I possibly can to try and win that mini league. And then obviously Bellingham got booked and done nothing else, so a 1 pointer from him and 2 ended up staying as the captaincy. Then we've got Xavi Simons, who obviously scored a wonder goal, which was great, but again, a very popular pick who essentially is owned by everyone, so nothing really to shout too much about there. The same with Harry Kane, and then Mbappe as well, I think, got an assist. So yeah, again, 2 players that are essentially owned by everyone in the game, so no real gains can actually be made there. So looking ahead to tomorrow's match in the final, then obviously there's only 2 teams, so these stats don't really matter too much, because there isn't much variance to go off of in terms of different players to pick. But just in case you are interested, the clean sheet odds are on the screen: 38% for Spain and 31% for England. So if you are debating on the defenders to go for, I would go for the guys who are picking up a lot of ball recoveries, which we are looking at in just a minute. But I would probably, if you're maybe going to go for a 5 at the back, lean towards 3 Spain defenders and 2 English defenders if you want to base it on the stats. In my opinion, I do think Gehi is probably one of the only England defenders that I would own anyway. Spain do have a lot of nice ones: Cucurella, Laporte, Carvajal, all pretty decent options. So I would definitely be leaning towards the Spanish defenders if you were struggling on who to pick in defence. In terms of goal scorers, we have narrowed it down to, I believe, seven goal scorers, because there's no point in having 10 goal scorers with players with a less than 10% chance of scoring. So we're down to the top 7. Harry Kane's top in the list, and somehow Morata has made it into second in the list again. No idea how he's managed to do that, because it was another massively disappointing week for him in the semi-finals. And again, Lamine Yamal was the choice to go for from the Spanish attackers. So from the round of 16, I've owned Morata after making a last minute call when changing from Yamal. And if I had went for Yamal, my rank would probably be a lot better than it is right now, because he would have been the captain in at least one of those days where he done quite well. But he's picked up a good few, like 5 to 8 pointers in the last few weeks, whereas Morata's just been getting 2, 2, 2 and 2. So somehow he is still up there at a 25% chance of scoring. Whether I'm going to start him in the final, I'm not really too sure. Because I had so many England and Spain players in the previous round, my transfers has given me an extra 2 players, so I'm going to have to bench 2 players in the final. But again, we'll look at that when we look at our team. Watkins is in there at third, obviously scored the winner against the Netherlands. Don't expect him to start, but he is still at a 21% chance. So if you wanted to go full balls to the wall and play a massive risky play, you could potentially go for Kane, Watkins, and then only one of the Spanish attackers, whether you want Morata or Yamal. If you want to go for a front 3, that is. You could really try and gamble and go for someone who could potentially make an impact off the bench. You can see that with Palmer as well at 18% chance, if you maybe wanted to do that in midfield rather than up front. Yamal and Olmo in at 19 and 18%. 2 players I definitely would be wanting to have for the final. I wouldn't want to be missing out on them. Obviously Olmo is still competing for the Golden Boot along with Harry Kane, who has joined. I think it's a 5-way tie on 3 goals, so I imagine they'll be up for it and hoping to at least secure that Golden Boot. And then obviously we've got Saka in there as well at 16%. Players who don't make the list is Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden. I don't think there's really anyone massive. Nico Williams in there as well, he isn't making the list. A few players who are just slightly below 16%. So for ball recoveries then, again we are down to only 7 players, and yeah, I think I would be trying to get as many of these players in as possible. Obviously, we spoke about it a little bit in the semi-finals. This is just one game, so there's not going to be maybe 4 or 5 goal scorers in your game. So essentially, you're looking at over half your team isn't going to be getting a goal. So you want to be getting points from elsewhere, and that is where the ball recoveries is going to come into play. So if you're looking for transfers, would definitely be trying to get in Declan Rice. I don't think he's a very popular player right now, but he is definitely one I would be looking to transfer in, because he's now overtaking Gehi and is now the top ball recoverer. Is that the word? Possibly. For the Euros in terms of the 2 teams left. So I'd be trying to get him in because, again, he's unlikely to score, but at least you know you're going to be getting 4 or 5 points from him due to ball recoveries. Gehi as well, if you don't have him, I would be getting him in as well. Mentioned before about the Spanish defenders, Laporte, Cucurella and Carvajal, all 3 of them on this list. 3 players I would definitely be considering for the final. We've also got Rodri in there, again pretty disappointing in the semi-final, but he's one of those players that can easily chip in with a goal, and I think he's one I'm actually debating for my captaincy in the final, hoping he can redeem himself and pick up a few more ball recoveries, but more importantly try get that decisive goal as well. And obviously Rodri tends to score from outside the box, where you obviously get that extra point, so if he is going to get a goal, it would be a really, really nice captaincy pick. Now we've also got Kyle Walker in there at 26 ball recoveries. Now I wouldn't say he's a better option than Carvajal. Obviously Carvajal, I believe, missed 2 games, so Carvajal would be a lot higher on this list if he had played the entire tournament, but obviously he picked up a red card and was rested in Matchday 3. So I think he's a lot better, a much better option than what he appears to be on this list. So in terms of team selection and transfers then for the final, we've got a massive 7.4 million in the bank, so essentially for the whole group stage, the budget really hasn't mattered at all. But these are the 5 transfers that I'm planning to do. So I want to bring in Yamal, I want to bring in Olmo, I want to bring in Laporte, and I want to bring back Carvajal. Happy enough to do this. They are probably the 4 Spanish players I would definitely be wanting in. In terms of ones that I've missed out, I don't really think there is anyone. I think Fabian Ruiz is probably the only pick that could do some harm to me. I've essentially covered everyone else. I mean, I've got more than half of the starting 11 in there. That's 8 Spanish players, all predicted to start. So there's only 3 I'm missing. I'm trying to work out who the 3 is. That'll be Fabian Ruiz, whoever the other centre mid is, so I believe Merino, I could be wrong on that, and then Unai Simon. I know I've got Lenormand as well. That's what it would be. Yeah, so Lenormand, Unai Simon and Fabian Ruiz are the only 3 players from Spain that I don't have in this team. And then we've got 5 English players and Jordan Pickford, Gehi, Rice, Bellingham and Kane. And I do think there is a couple of players that could do some harm here. For example, Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka as well, and then obviously maybe someone like Watkins off the bench. I'm not really too worried about the defenders. I'm more than happy with just having Guéhi and Pickford. I do think Spain score, and obviously Guéhi is the best for ball recoveries, so happy enough with the defence. It's just those extra midfielders that I'm a little bit worried about. If I could choose, I would probably have Saka over, or maybe even Foden, one of Foden or Saka over Nico Williams, but I don't want to be using that extra transfer, plus it would just give me even more of a benching headache. In terms of captaincies, again, I've currently got it on Rodri. I'm not going to lock it in right now because I honestly have no idea what I want to be doing. I feel like I need to go for a differential pick, because I need to gain 13 points on the person top of the mini league. So it's I really need to nail the best captaincy option, and I'm thinking it's got to be someone with a chance of scoring and maybe picking up ball recoveries, and they're probably going to have to get man of the match as well. So it's a very tough call, but currently I'm on Rodri. In terms of players I'd be tempted by, I think Olmo would be another one. Obviously picking up more points for scoring midfielders do rather than attackers, which is why I think they're a little bit better. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet in the match, so I think it will be a midfielder that I end up captaining, and that's probably going to be one of Rodri or Olmo. And then if I was to go totally different, it probably would be Harry Kane, because he's on the penalties potentially. I guess that's another reason that I could go for Rodri, because he could be potentially taking penalties as well. Now, in terms of bench players, as you can see, again, I mentioned it before, I've got 13 players here and I need to get rid of 2 of them. Now, this is a big decision because all of these players I feel like could do something in this final. The one player I think I am going to be getting rid of is going to be one of the Spanish defenders, and I definitely want to be keeping Carvajal, so it's going to be one of Laporte and Cucurella. And at the same time, obviously I'm just transferring Laporte in, so I'm more tempted to get rid of Cucurella. Again, Laporte has picked up more ball recoveries recently than Cucurella does, and Laporte had a huge chance against France early on in the semi-finals, so I think I'm going to keep Laporte, hoping that he outscores Cucurella in ball recoveries. The only thing that worries me about Cucurella is obviously he's playing at left back, and could obviously pick up a random assist out of nowhere, but I think I'm going to lock in Laporte and Carvajal in defence, so Cucurella probably is going to be at least one of the subs, and the other sub is where there's a big decision to make, because Jude Bellingham's actually coming to mind. I'm quite tempted to bench him because he doesn't really pick up any points unless he scores, and basing it off of like his season at Real Madrid, they never really scored too many goals in the late stage. Well, Bellingham never really scored too many late goals in the later stages. So Bellingham is in consideration to be benched. The other ones would be Morata and Nico Williams. Now, I kind of want to just hold out on Morata. That's probably why I've got such a terrible rank, but I've had him for the round of 16, the quarterfinals and the semis, and I don't want to bench him for the final and then he ends up scoring, so I don't really know. I kind of want to keep him in. I think my head's kind of telling me that he should be benched because it's a guaranteed 1 or 2 pointer from him. Nico Williams is another one, obviously. He could do something, but again, it's quite a tough decision between them. So I think it's going to be one of those 3 guys. It's going to either be Bellingham, Williams or Morata, and I don't think I'm going to make that decision just now. I think that's going to be something that I'm going to post on Twitter about an hour before the deadline. So Cucurella I think is definitely going to be benched. It's going to be one of Cucurella or Laporte. But I'm very much leaning towards Cucurella, and then the other one is obviously going to be Morata, Williams or Bellingham. But that is going to round off this video. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in into these team selection videos for Euro Fantasy. This is now the end of the Euro Fantasy videos, so thank you all so much. It's been a fantastic tournament, and it's just been absolutely brilliant for me and the YouTube. So thank you all to everyone who has been here. Hopefully you continue on for the FPL videos coming up and the UCL Fantasy. If you enjoyed Euro Fantasy, I would 100% recommend recommend you to play UCL Fantasy, because that was my favourite fantasy format last season, where I did get a much better rank than this 288k. I promise, and I'm a little bit better than what it shows. But yeah, I hope you do stick around. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.